Well, hello, everybody. Where you at, my friends? It is the Indianapolis Colts. We have made it to day two of 32, all the way past the Texans. If you missed it, you can go back and watch it from yesterday. When we're done today, you want to hear some quick math? That means we'll be 1/16 of the way through our previews when we're done today. I am Jim Derry. I am the smart one that just figured out that math real quickly here on bet.NOLA.com, powered by the Dattitude Podcast. Today, we're going to look at the Colts, a brand new coach, Shane Steichen. Let's try to say that 10 times fast. I dare you. Hold on, I'll wait for you. No, never mind. You can't do it anyway. Is he going to bring this Colts team back after going 4-12-1 last year? People expected a lot out of them last year. They had Matt Ryan. They were going to had this great running game, had a great offensive line. What happened? Well, we're going to talk about that. Is their defense going to be able to lead them back? What about some of the new additions they have? There's going to be a new quarterback, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Gardner Minshew or a combination of the two. We're going to get into it all coming up. The Colts here on day two of our NFL team previews. So what's the first thing you think of when you think of the Indianapolis Colts as we head into 2023? Well, they have a new coach. That's probably one of the things. But really, it's all about Anthony Richardson. That's all the talk has been going into this offseason. And they're a new quarterback drafted in the first round from Florida. He's going to be the next Lamar Jackson. Or is he? Here's one. We're going to get right into it because I'm not going to waste any time. You look at their offensive numbers, which are on the screen right now. 23rd in passing. 23rd in rushing. They had Jonathan Taylor, who was coming off a season where, and going into 2022, he was the number one fantasy draft pick almost everywhere. It was almost a consensus. But he had some injury troubles, and he just didn't play the same way he did before. That's partly because their offensive line wasn't as good. And it's also like we told you last year, we were not high on this team at all. We did not like the Colts, and that had a lot to do with Matt Ryan, an old Matt Ryan. So they go from an old Matt Ryan, who is probably going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, almost surely going to be in the Hall of Fame, to a quarterback they couldn't wait to draft, just shot up draft boards, came out of nowhere. If I would have asked you this time last year, who's Anthony Richardson, most of you would have said, I have no idea. Well, and now we all know who he is because that's all everybody's been talking about throughout this draft. He just shot up draft boards. Even going into the offseason. He was like a third-round pick, then a second-round pick. Next thing you knew, he was being rumored as the number one pick of the draft. And I don't get it. And I don't get how he's going to change this franchise. Because, again, let's look at where they were. 23rd in passing, 27th overall in offense. They have a lot to work on here, my friends. Look, I love Jonathan Taylor, and I think that he can rebound well. I think he can do a nice job and get this running game going again. I don't think that offensive line, which underachieved last year, Pro Football Focus has them as the number 10, the 10th best offensive line in the National Football League. They were 18th at the end of last year, shooting back up to 10th. Why? Because the year before that, they were really good, and that was because of Jonathan Taylor. So I think they will do much better in the running game, and also because Anthony Richardson, who probably will play a whole bunch this year, can run the football. The problem is he just can't pass. Are we going to think that he's going to come in and resurrect this franchise? First off, he's probably not going to start the season. They've got Gardner Minshew from Philadelphia, brought him over as a free agent, and he is most likely going to start the season, although he's probably going to run a similar type of offense under Steichen as Anthony Richardson. Say that 10 times fast. Anthony Richardson will eventually run for this team. I just don't see it. I don't see how this offense gets that much better. And are they going to run Jonathan Taylor into the ground? Well, we saw what Steichen did with the Eagles, and they didn't run a ton, but they ran enough. And the key to any winning franchise, unless basically you're the Kansas City Chiefs, and even they know how to run the football when it's time to, with Isaiah Pacheco. And I don't think they're going to be able to run the football enough because they're going to be behind in a lot of games. You know what? Let's take a look at their schedule when I'm going to come back to some of the other things. And as we look, it is the 30th toughest schedule, which means there are only 2 teams easier. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a spoiler alert. It's the Saints and Falcons are the only 2 that are easier schedule when it comes to how we did our schedule, based our schedule, by the way, figured out the toughest to easiest. We didn't just use last year's numbers. We used a formula based off of projected over-under win totals. And if you take those numbers from Caesars Sportsbook, put it into a formula, Colts had the 3rd easiest schedule. Right out the gate, I don't like this. You got to play Jacksonville, who is most certainly the consensus favorite to win this division again. They've got to play them in their first 6 games twice. They play them at home to open the season. They play them on the road on October 15th. And in between, okay, Houston team, you're talking about a what franchises. These 2 are going to be fighting for the cellar, I think. At Baltimore, tough game. They're not going to win that game. Then they're home for the Rams in Tennessee. I know people down in Tennessee, but I think they're better than most people think they are. Then you're talking about Cleveland, the Saints, at Carolina, going across overseas to play New England in Germany. Then they come home, they get a little break, they get Tampa Bay. Then they're on the road 3 out of 4 at Tennessee, Cincinnati. This schedule is definitely not a favorable one for this team. And I know it's the supposedly the 3rd easiest schedule, but you want to know why I think that the people who know what they're talking about don't think the Colts are going to do all that well? Well, it's pretty simple. Look at how many games they have that are not at noon. Well, how many games do they have that are either in prime time or where they're the only thing in town or somebody's going to see them at 3 o'clock? They have 1 late game. They have 1 game that's overseas and has to be at 8:30 in the morning. Otherwise, everything else except a couple of to be determined is at noon, which means the networks don't think they're going to be any good. The NFL doesn't think they're any good. And why would they? I mean, we haven't even talked about their defense, which, as we said, just average. They were 15th in the NFL last year. They were pretty good against the pass. They got a decent amount of sacks, but they lose Bobby Okereke. You know, they do have a couple of guys last year that Zaire Franklin took a major step forward, a young guy, and he's now going to have to play with Okereke going. He played a lot last year. I think he was either 2nd or 3rd on the team in tackles. He's going to be one of the key guys again because they're going to have to be great up front. Shaq Leonard, he's a little banged up here as we get into training camp. That front is going to have to be good because I am not a fan of this backfield at all. You know, they bring in Julian Brents with their 2nd-round pick. Is that going to make a difference? Are they going to be better than 15th? I don't think so. So it's prediction time when it comes to the Indianapolis Colts. And drum roll, please. Yep. What are you, crazy, Derry? Are you out of your mind? 3-14. I love this Colts team. One of my best bets of the entire season. I'm giving you a heads up right off the bat. I love the under. You're getting plus money, plus 105 on the under 6.5 wins. I know a lot of people think that this is a fait accompli. People are buying into this hype of Anthony Richardson, and I just don't understand it at all. I think this team may be good eventually. I don't know what to expect from Steichen. Unlike yesterday with D'Amico Ryans, I think the Texans are going to be good and soon. I think they have the makings to be something really soon, as a matter of fact. Whether C.J. Stroud starts the season or not, I think he's going to be a solid quarterback in this league at some point. I don't feel that way about Anthony Richardson at all. I never understood it. I said it during our draft coverage. I said it before and after. I just scratched my head. Him and Will Levis both. I never understood the hype of these two guys. Levis ended up going much later in the draft than a lot of people expected. Struggle to find an identity on offense. I think they're not going to know what to do, whether to run the ball with Taylor, whether to try to throw the ball. It's going to be Minshew early on, and at some point they're going to force Richardson into the ball game. He's going to play here and there. He's going to play snaps, so you're going to have a two-headed monster at different times, and that never works. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to tell you. But Colts 3-14, one of the best bets, under 6.5 as far as the other numbers. I wouldn't even look at them. Don't bet any of them. They're not worthy of any picks. Certainly not. Plus 700 to win a division. Don't waste your money. I'd rather put money on plus 1,000 for the Texans. Not going to win this year. We'll see if we change our minds next year. Tomorrow, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they'll be a little bit better than the Colts. We'll see how I feel about it then.